Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about rude tech leads. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, how do you deal with a rude tech lead even if they mean well? Well, usually I do I've gotten better at it now, I would say. I do the grown-up thing. I smile and try to keep calm, and then I wait until the situation has sort of just played out, whatever I'm doing, and then I go and report them to my manager. That's what I do. Because one of those things that I've been forced to learn the hard way, unfortunately, which is probably the biggest shift in the way that work environments and like the way that I've been used to. Let's just say that growing up, I was very much conditioned to the idea that if you had a problem with someone, or if you needed to have a conversation with someone, you just went and had that conversation with them. But you learn very quickly when you're working in an office environment, and I suspect that this is also those sorts of things that I've seen in those. Well, you've probably seen it in these, dramas with aristocrats and politics and stuff like that, where you can't just do something vicious to someone because that's going to reflect poorly on you. The trick is to make it seem like someone failed or make someone else look bad without being directly associated with the thing that is happening. So you have spies and you have all these fake smiles in the nice ballrooms and so forth and so forth. It's basically the same deal, where the risk to you as an individual, if you have a tech lead that is really, really rude, is the issue is that in order for you to resolve resolve this in a way where you don't actually put yourself at risk either, well, it's practically impossible in a sense, because you're only met with two options here. There's a third one, which you always have, of course, which is to just leave the company, and that is, I'll mention that later. But the two options you usually have is to either talk to them directly or go and talk to their manager. Both situations can end poorly for you. If you go and talk to them directly, all you have to do is to say something that feels, annoying to them or that they don't really like hearing, because they of course have no they don't self-reflect, and they have no perception of self, which means that now they, who have been rude to you for all this time, think that you are the rude one, and then they go and report you to the manager, and the manager is of course an idiot or just an outside person trying to resolve a conversation. It's your word against their word, and they're the tech lead, so out you go, you junior piece of shit, or something similar to that, your problem starter or so forth. This is especially true if you have a little bit of a reputation to be a problem starter in a company. And I've said this as well, guys, you could be the most noble, best, hardest working, perfect human being there is in the entire organization, and it does not matter if the environment is not in your favor. This is how, by the by, it must, I assume now, must feel to be, the one police officer, the one politician in a corrupt country or something like that really tries to be a straight arrow and have all these corrupted people around them, because the corrupted people see them as the problem. From their noble values perspective, they are, of course, and from whatever higher power we are worshipping, the person who's doing everything right, the straight arrow, that's the person you want to bet on, right? But in the real world, they get murdered or get ejected or overseen for promotions and things like that, because the ecosystem around them is built on corrupt or incompetent, etc. people that share the same values, which should bring you to a very, very horrible idea. It's interesting, but it's horrible. Perhaps the way to success has less to do with that you embody productivity and noble values, and more to do with knowing how to manipulate the surroundings that you find yourself in. Food for thought. Anywho, this basically leaves you with option number 2, which is to go directly to your manager, and hopefully they will listen to you. Now, it depends on the work. Again, guys, it comes back to the thing I said. It really depends on the circumstances. If the manager is the tech lead's best friend, or they go and they play golf or something together, it might be more difficult for you than if they don't really have any association. This is something you should be extra aware of if you're joining any startups or anything like that. If you talk to a startup where all the founders used to grow up together and so forth, you better be damn aware of that. You might get booted quicker than in some other company, because if you piss off one of them, you're pissing off all of them, or similar sort of things can happen. Not always, but you should be aware of that. Right and wrong, guys. I like to tell people like that. You have to prove things in court. In the real world, or in the office and so forth, all that really is needed is a feeling. A feeling is enough to get you fired in some cases, or like a bad reputation or something. That's enough. Like, they don't need to prove anything. It doesn't matter if you are in the right, because it's word of mouth, and they don't actually require any proof or similar sorts of things usually to get rid of you. So the way that, as I said, it's, at least in my opinion, to deal with this is to do the second thing. Because if you have a direct confrontation with the person, and it's not the sort of individual who will, I've never talked to someone who is rude in that manner and would be open to changing their ways. It's probably a trait of their personality that is sort of ingrained. If it's not, that's great. Talk to them, see if you can come to some understanding. But otherwise, it's just find the higher ranking person to address the situation, and just cross your fingers that they actually care enough to look into the thing, and that they have the necessary insight to actually look into the things. Because the worst case scenario here is, as I said, that they are already familiar with the existing tech lead, and they favor that person's, whatever they say is the thing that they will believe. There's other, of course, like people who go to HR, other departments and so forth. It's still the it's the robber and police problem, where robber, police, and victim problem. If you get mugged in the streets, and a policeman or a police officer comes around the corner, and the thief doesn't get away, the police has a problem, because you're both telling the police officer different stories. One of you is the mugger and one of you is the victim, but both of you are claiming to be the victim or being innocent. So who is the police officer going to arrest? It's the exact same problem. It's just that it's your manager now who needs to figure out if it's the tech lead that is the issue, or if it's you. If they're good at their job, they will go and talk to other people within the team, and hopefully you'll get some leverage there, because other people might have experienced the same thing as you. But as I said, as with the straight arrow in a corrupt police department or politician or something like that, if they're all covering each other's backs because they all are benefiting from something that you are a threat to, you're out. So what I want you to take away from this is that I usually suggest to you that if you deal with any rude tech lead, it doesn't matter if it's a tech lead or a coworker or something like that, do the thing that the shrewd drama actors do in all of those soap operas that you might be watching and so forth. Don't confront directly unless you feel pretty certain that you can do so in a way that leaves both parties pretty satisfied with the situation. Because, as I said, even if you have been treated really poorly, the misconceptions on the other person might actually make the whole story from their perspective be that you are the problem. Because if they are rude to you, maybe they're rude to you because, I don't know, you had an offensive colored sweater, or you weren't woke enough a certain day, or you weren't enough politically correct. Like, it can be a million things. They don't like you for some reason. And if you tell them off, they might just go, what is all of this now? And then they have more reason to hate you, and then they go and tell the manager, and all of a sudden they're reporting you first. And as anybody who works in law enforcement will probably tell you, you should ideally be the person who gets in good with the police when they arrive at the scene as quickly as possible, because, as I said, you're basically in a word against word type of situation. And so going to your manager before your tech lead who's mistreating you has a chance to might be a good option here. Ideally, if you're really lucky, this is a good manager who will do a little bit of investigation, or maybe the tech lead have had some other complaints so they can resolve the situation. The thing you don't want is, as I said, to make the whole thing blow up all that much, because in many cases, guys, it's not going to turn out better for you. In those situations, it might actually be better for you to just walk away and get yourself another job or something like that. Because as I said, if you're in a really shitty situation, it might be that the tech lead is best friends with your manager and all the managers and so forth and so forth, or it might be that the team themselves, like they kind of like the tech lead and they sort of are fine with the, like maybe he or she is just a bully to you and everybody else kind of ignores that, and all of a sudden, you're sort of frozen out. There's a lot of very unfortunate women who has reported, things in offices that have probably gone through those sorts of experience. Just as there's a lot of straight arrows around the world who find themselves in a corrupt situation where literally they can't do anything that is supposed to be happening or like the right thing, because all the people around them will shoot them basically, or destroy their career if they try. Have a great day.